Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Noles Anonymous. I'm your host, Drake, and today in the stream yard, I got the one and only Mr. David Wise. Davey, what's going on, my guy?
Drake, I am great as usual. It feels good to be a college football fan with something to play for going into middle November. That is not something we have grown accustomed to in recent years, and it's certainly not something that our rivals have any knowledge of in the last 20 years.
Way to bury the lead there, Dave. Folks, we are going to talk about the victory that FSU had this past weekend over the Miami Hurricanes, 27-20. A little closer than some expected, but if you know the history of the rivalry, what is it, Dave? I think 17 of the past 20 matchups, it's always been decided by one score or less. So, well, not one score or less. There's only one score, but yeah, one. So, but overall, like watching that game, Dave, I think we'll kind of just start there. You had a little more of an expectation that it was gonna be not a blowout, but you heard everyone starting over Tyler Van Dyke, and then you're like, "Oh, this might be something a lot easier for us to handle." But the kid, while he didn't make, he wasn't supreme, he wasn't, elite, he didn't make any mistakes, and that was the one thing TVD
Right.
had done since ACC play started. So I kinda want you to start you start there, for how did you feel about the game overall from start to end?
All right. So, two things. One, I had to do some soul searching in this game because I, like you, like a lot of people, a lot of our fans that watched that game, was just pissed off. Like, it just felt like so many things could have or should have been done differently or better, and drives shouldn't have ended the way they did. And I had to like come to peace with something, Drake, which is you should only be angry at those kind of things, just in general, forgetting setting aside that it's a rivalry game. You should only be angry at those things if like you you would necessarily expect that it has to be better than it was. And the reality is not every good or great or playoff contending or even playoff college football team is going to be the 2013 Florida State Seminoles. They may be going to the Northern Alabama game for a reunion next week, but they are not playing on the field for us this year. This is a different team. It's a good team. It is not no team is the 2013 team. That team was so elite at every level, and this team is very good in its own right, Drake. I mean, it's got us right in position to make a playoff. They're taking care of business. Do I wish they had blown Miami out? Do I enjoy just reveling in the calmness of not having to worry about the result of the game and just crying Miami fans all over Twitter? Yes, that would be ideal. But that's not the reality. This isn't 2013, and that Miami team is still more talented than this Florida State team. So any given Saturday, a talented team can play up to their talent level. And that doesn't come from anything Mario Cristobal is doing for them because they are not very well coached. But those players can make plays. They're talented. They're more talented than we are right now. I expect that to change, but I can't get too mad because of those couple things.
I mean, you really can, and like I kind of want to point out too that the talent level of both teams. If you want to look at it technically speaking, I mean, Dave, you followed recruiting for a long time. Blue chip ratio, all that, all that jazz, all those, words. That Miami's roster is the 12th most talented in the country. Florida State is 20th, and that includes transfers coming in. And folks, I know a lot of people were saying out there, FSU's got a lot of transfers. Miami fans included were saying that one of Miami's best defensive players, Francis Mauigoa, is a transfer from Washington State.
Right.
If you look at the team overall, high school wise, that team is going to be loaded for a long time. Whether it be Ruben Bain, who we were able to stop him this weekend, but he's also an 18-year-old. That kid's going to be playing on Sundays. You look at Leonard Taylor, another elite player there as well. Look at Cam Kitchens, who will be leaving, but he's only one of the few showing that he was a that he was a developed player. But talent wise, FSU, technically speaking, from the high school ranks, has been lagging behind up until this year, where now FSU as number 3 ranked team in the country per 247 Sports Composite.
Yep.
So you look at all of that to say, is the gap closing? Yeah. I think we're closing the gap in Miami with how talented our players are from the high school ranks coming in, whether it be a Charles Lester or a KJ Bolden, because those are players that are crown jewels of a lot of people's classes. And we got like 3 or 4 of them, along with Luke Kromenhoek and Cameron Davis.
Yeah, and That's what's interesting here is because Mario Cristobal took over a team that I mean, look, I don't know Miami's situation as well as I'm sure Miami fans do, but he took over a team that came in ranked. Like they were ranked when he started there. Mike Norvell did not have that luxury when he got to FSU. I mean, truly, the fact that we're 10-0 and on the verge of a playoff berth if we finish out our business with the 20th most talented roster in college football, that really, really speaks to how well coached this team is. And you may not like individual play calls. I didn't like some of the individual play calls during the Miami game. But again, it's really hard to be too angry about it for one simple reason, Drake. Did you at any point in that game ever really wonder, are we going to pull out that victory?
You mean snatch defeat from the jaws of victory? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Like were you ever really, really worried, or did you expect the adjustments to be made?
I mean, like, to me, I had a feeling that we might I honestly was like I think I texted you this before, like, I thought we'd be down by, like, 3 points or tied at halftime. I mean, that's kinda like how the rivalry games go. Because to me, the defense was gonna show out. I think the one consistent thing that we've seen all season is this defense is a top 10 defense, and not only that, Adam Fuller is a top 5 coordinator when it comes to halftime adjustments.
Yep.
Him, Brandon Shannon, John Papuchis. Like, so to me, did I ever feel that it was gonna be go away from us? I didn't because the momentum that was shifting towards Miami happened right before the half. And we know how Shane Dawson and Mark Cristobal aren't the best at halftime adjustments. Because it was very vanilla play calling after all that, going into the second half, which they probably should have stepped it up a little bit more because they kind of were getting what they wanted. Defensively, Lance Guidry, that's a really good defensive coordinator hire. Like he actually did his job.
Yeah.
But but to me, everything was like going away from us. No, not really, because the main scoring thing is like what second half, they only went past the 50 on the busted play where Kevin Knowles
Right.
ran defensive Cypress and the onside kick, which I like the onside kick. You gotta kind of have to try to do that. Also, that was kicked really, really well. The bounce was unfortunate. And also Frank Ladson, who I think has been there now for 6 years. He does have good hands. He made a really good play catch in that onside kick for Miami. So to me, no, I really didn't have a question as to how the game was going to end overall.
That is exactly the point. Is I think this coaching staff is really maximizing what they're getting out of the players and obviously the results of the games. Like to be 10-0 with the 20th most talented roster in college football and despite some things happening during games that you wonder how could that happen, like how could Keon not have more than 24 yards, or how could we run the ball for one or less yards on first down seemingly so many times. Like those things like frustrate you, but it always ends up at the end of the game feeling like there was a method to the madness. Like I have full and complete trust in this coaching staff to prepare for the game, but more importantly to make sure that during the game that they're not just playing the checkers hand they came in with. Like they're still trying to play chess throughout the game, and you can trust that they're going to see what they see and make adjustments, and we're going to be all right. Now, is that going to be an issue when we get to tougher games, like in the playoffs, for example, or against Louisville in the ACC championship? Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I think you got to maximize your opportunities a little better and not make as many mistakes as we do. But right now, 10-0 snapshot, it feels like the coaching staff has really squeezed all the juice they can out of this team, doesn't it?
It kinda does, so that kinda leads me to my next point, like, is how we kept saying that, the offense will figure it out, the offense will figure it out, we only done a few shows, but that's how we've been saying that. How much of it now do you resign to the fact, like, maybe this is just who we are? Like, it is what it is, that the offensive line it hasn't really taken a step back, but it hasn't really taken a step forward, I think is more what you want. I mean, you lose Dylan Gibbons, who was there for 2 years, and continuity on the offensive line is so key to
Yeah.
specifically that position group. And then you bring in new pieces like a Jeremiah Byers, Bless Harris, who's been here for 2 years for his second year, but he hasn't been fully healthy. I mean, I think he played, what, 2 snaps against Miami?
Yeah.
You have a Keandre Jones coming in first year. Casey Roddick, the same thing. Mo Smith, your most, I guess, most starts up from the entire offensive line, but he's always playing banged up. The kid's a warrior. So, to me, I think at this point, you gotta, like, kind of ask yourself, am I expecting too much from this team? And also for that, I'm sorry, am I expecting too much from this offense, given kind of the limitations of this offensive line? Because we have all these weapons, but you can only use all these weapons if you have enough time to get the ball out and distribute it.
Yeah, that you saw that a couple times pop its head up in the Miami game. I think there was that big sack that Jordan Travis took towards the end of the game where, I mean, he snapped the ball. I think it was on third down. He snapped the ball, and I think the play was designed to have all the receivers running to the left. And like he didn't even have time to get through his first read by the time he was already being contacted. So that is a byproduct of a offensive line just not doing its job in that instance. And I think that hits the nail on the head. And it's not a negative thing to say this team is what it is. If this team is what it is, it's undefeated and it's competing for an ACC championship and a playoff. That's pretty damn good if that's what this team is. But it is funny because every time we've had this conversation all year between each other on this show, we've kept saying like the scary thing is this team's capable of another gear. Well, we just we haven't seen it all come together for a full game, and we haven't seen that gear hit for, a prolonged enough period of time that it feels like that's just there when we need to call it, right? So,
Mhm.
I think the point is, like, maybe I think this team on individual plays and drives can make great plays. We do have players on this team capable of making great plays, and they all play within the scheme. So there's going to be, stretches of games where we're just dominant. But, I think if that's your expectation that this team can, really call on a play or a drive and make it happen, then I don't think you're going to be too disappointed. But I think if your expectation is that, don't worry, we're going to see second half of LSU and what will be another good example here of just a complete half.
Probably Wake Forest second half, maybe.
Right. So don't worry, we're going to be second half LSU and second half Wake Forest, in this game. Like, I don't know that I would expect that. Maybe be pleasantly surprised if that's what ends up happening, because that's exactly the kind of thing we're probably going to need to do to make the championship game if we do get into the playoffs. So I don't know, just appreciate this team for what it is. It's undefeated. And that's coming off of a span of time where we were really, really bad. And Mike Norvell in his press conference today, when he was asked about the Texas A&M rumors, he's like, 2 years ago they were asking me, "Are you still going to be here?" Like,
Mhm.
not because you took another job, but because you got to win some games.
'Cause you also about to be fired.
Right.
That was why.
That's exactly what they meant. And now here you have it. Now Mike Norvell is being rumored for head coaching jobs at all these other schools. So look, we're in a great spot. You've seen what the offense is capable of. This defense continues to do the same thing every week, which is just shut the door on teams in the second half. I- Is that good enough for you? Like, does that meet your expectations for going into the season and throughout the season, what you thought this team is capable of?
So to me, I expected this offense to be kinda like a top 5 consistent kind of offense, right? And then with the defense, I thought it would be supplemented by a top 15 sort of defense. The result I expected was an ACC championship appearance, was with the most likely a win, but I expected to be playing Clemson in the ACC championship game,
Yeah.
not Louisville. So to me, it's met my expectations. It might be exceeding them as well, 'cause I think a CFP, if we win out CFP, it's all but inevitable. I don't care what happens if Oregon beats Washington, I don't think they'll be able to jump us because of that one loss. So to me, with that, I think it's met. It's kinda like, how when you're doing math in, like, middle school, it's like you get the answer, but you have to show your work to
Yeah.
show you, like, did you do it the right way? I feel like I've done it my way, and then if she's like, "No, no, no, it's just we're gonna go do it this way instead, the proper way, the way we wanna do it." That's kinda what this season kinda feels to me overall. And I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, the defense is something that, I have been saying that we need to improve on. Pat Surtain came in, and our defensive backs have played much, much better. I know
Okay.
Kevin Knowles, and there was one player that a lot of people have been talking about on Twitter, but the kid never played safety up until this year. Do you really expect anything else from a kid playing in a Power 5 conference, a brand new position? Like, come on. But overall, to me, secondary has been good. Linebacking play has been very good. Defensive line, we had a lot of the rotations have been good overall. And to me, the results speak for themselves. And right now, all I want to do right now is focus on Florida, because that's a game that I know Graham Mertz was someone that we talked about being not that much of a threat. I think you texted me asking me, is he the best worst QB or the worst decent QB you've ever seen play? But so far, he hasn't made any of the mistakes, and that's the thing at Wisconsin that he was kinda known for. So to me, Florida, it might be a better team than Miami. So to me, that's something we need to focus on a post done with Alabama.
I'm glad you said that because Florida is such an important game, I think, for a lot of people to see. Florida's offense isn't the issue for me. Like Graham Mertz is one of the shining stars of that team this year, which is the most preposterous sentence these lips have ever uttered.
Hey,
But
he's not messing up.
no,
He's not effing around and finding out.
but what that Gators team is doing is implementing an interesting scheme where you go to, I don't know who even sells these. Like, I don't know, maybe you go on Amazon and you buy 11 turnstiles and you put those at each position on defense in the depth chart. You just, whatever their defensive coordinator's name is, that lunatic.
Oh, you mean them? Oh, what I forgot. Someone called him like he's like one of those kids in a Call of Duty lot, was just hype up on a bunch of Mountain Dew from that. We're in a 4 zone scheme with I was
Multiple.
like, yeah, thank you, multiple. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
Jesus,
we don't have a
what is
tool
that?
bag. We have a tool shed. Okay.
He sounds like me talking about defense. I no.
He has installed an impressive array of turnstiles in that defense, the likes of which the SEC has not seen before. They gave up over 700 yards to LSU, a team that we shut down for most of that game in the entire second half.
600 to Jaden Dales himself. He had
I'm
was it 234 rushing yards, 600 something. Sorry, 400. Yeah, 300 something passing yards and 234 rushing yards.
unbelievable. But my point being, the reason I said this was that's such an important game for I think a lot of Florida State fans and I think the nation to see because the expectation against that defense, yes, it's a rivalry game, and just like the Miami game, it'll probably end up being closer than it deserves to be. But if you're gonna get right, if you're gonna, you know, get hot at the right time on offense, there is literally no better like power five team and power five defense to do it against right now than the defense that gave up 700 to LSU and is probably going to give up a half a thousand to Missouri this week.
372 passing yards, 234 rushing yards, 2 TDs rushing, 3 TDs passing.
Yeah.
Good God, that's how much do we give that though to Jane Daniels being a cheat code?
Uh, Look,
If we're being honest, also too.
a lot. He deserves the Heisman in a year where I don't know. It doesn't feel like to me that there's like an undefeated team that's just like, oh, the undefeated team, the number one team with the number one player on their team's always winning the Heisman. That's doesn't feel like that this year. But dude, everybody has just taken turns running through those turnstiles in UF's defense. So I expect absolutely nothing less. I mean, it's the last regular season game that's ever going to be played by these seniors. And I expect to see Jordan Travis, really trying to get this offense in rhythm at the exact right time. Like for if we get hot going into that game or in that game going into the ACC championship, who cares about how we looked at any point at any other game the rest of the season before that? That's what's going to matter. That's what's going to define what this team's capable of this season. Can we get hot at the right time? Defense is already there. Perfect spot for the offense to get there.
I mean, I think so too. And you look at UF schedule too. I didn't know. I forgot about this. They're 5-5, so they need to win one of their last 2 games to actually become bowl eligible. Like their only wins are against the McNeese, an FCS team. They beat a Tennessee team that I think a lot of us believed were overhyped heading into the year.
Yeah.
Charlotte, like a lower tier power like Conference USA team. You lose at Kentucky. You beat Vanderbilt after I think almost losing to Vanderbilt or losing to Vanderbilt last year. Great job. You beat South Carolina. No, you need a field goal against South Carolina to beat South Carolina, a South Carolina team that is 50 shades of pure unadulterated ass. And then you lose to Arkansas, Georgia, and LSU. And all these games, you let up at least, looks like to me, 30 plus points.
Yeah.
In a majority of your losses. So with Missouri on deck and then having FSU come into, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, which it is a night game. So that could change a little bit. It's post Thanksgiving. People will actually be able to make it up for the game. I thought it was going to be at noon or 3:30, but night game for narratives or whatever. To me, it's a Florida team that Graham Mertz has been decent. Ricky Pearsall catches really everything in front of him. In fact, I think he's what a lot of people think Xavier Restrepo is from Miami, which
Right.
Xavier Restrepo, good wide receiver, but also Pearsall catches legitimately everything thrown his way, unlike Restrepo, who had 2 drops on Saturday. But to me, this is a game that if you win this game, you're kind of in the driver's seat for maybe even a better seating position actually for the CFP. I think that's when you'll be able to move from the 4 spot to 3 spot because Ohio State, Michigan play each other.
Yeah.
And to me, that Michigan team is going to probably beat up on Ohio State. And that will lead me to believe FSU slides in that spot at number 3. And instead of going to the Rose Bowl all the way at Pasadena, you have a nice little spot in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia, which to me, a little bit tougher of opponent, but I think for fan wise, will be a lot more, I guess, more enjoyable for us.
I don't want to look that far ahead. Well, here's the thing: we're done with our ACC games. We don't have to worry about that. We're undefeated in ACC play. We're going to the championship game. Well, I'm really happy with this Louisville matchup, Drake. I really don't think it could have worked out. Like maybe if like Virginia Tech had squeaked in there, like that would have been like more just wow. I don't have to worry about this one at all. But this isn't the Louisville team with Malik Cunningham and Lamar Jackson and all those guys back there. That's not the same team. This is an offense that's not even top 30. And it's a team that probably should have lost to Virginia last week. And it's a team that did lose to Pitt. So Louisville,
Yeah, that was weird. That was really random because Pitt's not good.
no, they're not. And neither is Virginia. And just Louisville is probably a good team. And like they've had a really nice season, but that is a team I really like us matched up against, like our defense against their offense, especially.
Mhm.
So I mean, look, the road is paved, Drake. They paved the road. Now we just have to walk down.
We're gonna walk down the Golden Road, walk it down because you look at Louisville's schedule. You're right; it doesn't really. They're not a bad team. I mean, was it
No,
Jake Plummer? Jack Plummer. Sorry, Jack Plummer. Jake Plummer's son is the QB there now after Malik Cunningham left for the NFL. Jeff Brom, new head coach, because Scott Satterfield. I don't know why. I don't know why Cincinnati hired him, and he hasn't even been good since Cincinnati this year. I've never thought Scott Satterfield was a good coach,
nope.
but they play Miami at Miami, which Cristobal, I don't think he's won an ACC game at home ever, so that'll be interesting. And then you play Kentucky, so that's going to be kind of a tougher stretch for them. Kind of actually heading into our game where we get the tune up to to rest up because there's a lot of players playing injured against North Alabama, and then Florida, which I think Florida might be the game where a lot more people thought Miami was going to be a blowout. I think Florida can be that, especially if you're seeing. I mean, the effort on some of the plays you saw from the secondary trying to tackle Jane Daniels, which, listen, I get it. He's Jane Daniels. He's freaky fast. But you watch some, I think some DBs like, slowing up, pulling back. So to me, with the Florida game, I think you're right. The path, it's paved. And I think we'll be, be celebrating a 3 seed in the CFP coming this December.
Yeah, and look, here's the last thing I'll say here. This is a senior laden team. It took a lot of pieces just jiving together to make this 2023 Florida State team an undefeated playoff worthy type team. It really did. And I expect to see a lot of upperclassmen play with a lot of emotion here down the stretch. Like you may have thought that some of the games or sometimes during games, the last several weeks looked like predictable or boring or vanilla or whatever. I think you're going to see an awful lot of passion laid out there on the field. I mean, it all comes down to this now. I mean, I don't in Northern Alabama, but this is it. They control how many games they get to play the rest of their college career. Jordan Travis gets to decide with his arm and his legs how many and our defense, obviously, but how many games he's going to play in a garnet and gold uniform for the rest of his career. And all he's got to do is win 4 more, and we're going to a championship game. And this team is in a position to do that. And if you had asked us a year ago, Drake, if that was possible, I don't think we would have been able to give you an answer without laughing.
Man, if you asked us 2 years ago, I'd been like, "Ha!" And we
Right.
probably just hung up on you, actually, overall with this point. But nothing is better than controlling your own destiny, Dave. And nothing also better than hanging out with you, talking about Florida State football with you.
You too.
Please, Dave, let the folks know how much you love them, how to support the show, and also how to support the team, sporting your beautiful, beautiful hat.
I do love all of you. Thank you for being here. You can, of course, always find us on YouTube, Noles Anonymous. Please do like the video, subscribe, share, turn on your notifications, ding the little bell, all of those good things. You can also find us on Twitter, Noles Anonymous. Every now and then we say something funny. And also, this is Battle's End. Always support the Battle's End. That is how we continue to do what we do with all of these good players. Also, for what it's worth, this turquoise long sleeve hoodie thing.
Yeah, it's dope. It looks
It's
so nice.
awesome. You should all get it if you can find it in stock. It's the best.
And for Dave, this is Drake. We'll see y'all next time on Noles Anonymous. Take care, everybody.
You suck.